Good evening, YouTube. Tire Metalhead Weatherman here. Hopefully, you guys are doing well. Finally, starting to get over this little head cold that I've been battling up against since the cold spurt came in. Looks like we're finally clear of that now, and we can kind of get back to business as usual. Well, let me not say that too quickly, because I do feel a little bit of phlegm still in my throat. But that being said, main topic that we're going over today is about New Year's Eve, because there looks like there could be a storm system that's affecting the southeast around this time. This one doesn't really look like too big of a snow producer here, so we're just going to go ahead and jump right into it. So this is our current view right now from this was our current view from the Euro. 18Z doesn't quite reach out far enough, so we're using the 12 right now. But this is what we were looking at earlier this morning. And we roll this forward. As of right now, things are pretty quiet unless you get over to the southwest, where a new storm is forming and making its way onshore. And this will be becoming a player around the Rocky Mountains by tomorrow morning. This is going to be bringing a mixture of rain and snow, especially towards the higher elevations. We'll be seeing more snow. But for the most part, temperatures are actually just a bit above freezing at the moment. So when we go into Thursday, this takes its time moving through too. It's not a very quick moving system. So as we're looking ahead towards the 29th and into the 30th, it's a little shortwave piece of energy meets up with another one that's just south of the border here, coming from the Baja. And we'll watch these two interact a bit while yet another system comes in and starts to deepen. And this is heading into the evening hours of the 30th and into New Year's Eve. And this becomes a system that will end up bringing unsettled weather to the southeast. There isn't a particularly highlighted area of severe weather, but there is some area of interest right over here towards South Georgia, I think, southern Alabama, where there does look like there seems to be a sufficient warm sector aloft. The one question that I do have is depending on the upper air forcing. Doesn't look like there's a whole lot of that available. This low pressure seems like it's robust enough to maybe trigger some severe weather, but it might be right on top of that low itself. You don't see too much of a trough in this in the jet stream here, in these isobars at all. It's very minor, very minute in nature, so to speak. And as we move this forward, we can see that doesn't really change too much. This mainly lends itself more towards a heavy rain threat. At least this is what we're having highlighted on the Euro. We have to look at the GFS to kind of get a good comparison, but for the most part, I don't really see too much that tells me that this will be a severe weather system. The one behind it, however, we look towards the second, as we're heading into the beginning of the new year. That's a different story. This has a much stronger trough. This has a little bit more sufficient warm sector and a little bit more of a broad warm sector as well. So this is going to have to be an area that's watched closely. I think somewhere around here there could be a chance for a few pop-up severe storms. All this will depend on the collision of air masses here. It does look like, based off of the vorticity here, that the Gulf of Mexico will open up as a result of this. So anywhere around this region, I think there's a heightened likelihood of severe weather. This will be mainly between the 2nd and the 4th. I'm really thinking the 3rd and the 4th are going to be the days of interest with that storm system. And then as we move along, we'll try to move towards the 5th, and it looks like there's another little piece of energy that pops up here. Could be multiple days of heavy rain and maybe severe weather. This kind of lends itself more towards a heavy rain threat, but I do find the look of this particular system interesting. Definitely not really a cold push, but there's plenty of energy running rampant with this. This looks like a very progressive system as well, so it'll be interesting to see what happens with this on the 4th. But we'll have to keep an eye on that. But there is a lot of vorticity with that system too, so it's hard to tell what's going on with that. Of course, this is also at the end of the model run. Just whole 240 hours out, 10 days in total. So we'll have to see what this ends up doing. Then, of course, we have another system to watch. And this one looks really robust in regards to the 6th of January. Now, if we go to the GFS, this is more towards current time. We'll move this forward. Here's our shortwave system moving out. This is the Clipper system that was causing light to moderate snow around the Tennessee Valley and the southeast. And meanwhile, while all this is going on, here's our next storm system coming in through the west here. And as we move this forward, pretty similar look. These two pieces of energy are interacting with one another. Showers and thunderstorms will start to develop around this region. There is a slightly more aggressive look with this in regards to an area of interest for severe weather. Again, it's mainly towards southern Alabama and southern Georgia, south central Georgia. That are the areas of interest here. I don't expect this to be widespread in either scenario from the GFS or the Euro. But as we move this along, the shower and thunderstorm coverage will increase throughout New Year's Eve and really into the transition time into the new year. So if you're looking for fireworks around the southeast, it could be a little bit difficult given the weather circumstance. So we'll have to see what ends up happening there. But as we head towards the 2nd, things will start to clear out, but will also be a lot warmer to start out the year. And I do think that this will set the stage for a potentially more significant severe weather event as we head towards the 3rd and the 4th. Now, unlike the Euro, when we start looking towards this date, things look a little bit more linear, if you know what I'm saying here. We'll probably look at the precip type radar in a minute, and we'll go from there. But from what I can see here, this definitely has the look of a linear event, but also has a look of maybe even a flood threat, as it looks like a lot of areas will be seeing moisture from the same storms over and over again, or the same storm system, I should say. And then it's interesting to see how this evolves as time goes on. This trough digs down pretty far to the south. There's quite an abundant warm sector aloft, so could be multiple days of showers and thunderstorms. Could be multiple days of even severe weather. And there is a little bit of a zonal look to this too, which I find interesting. So somewhere around here could be some increased severe weather, maybe even all modes of severe weather possible. Of course, this is over 200 hours out, so this needs to be taken with a grain of salt. But if that look holds, we're going to have to watch that really closely, because anytime you see a zonal look like that with a trough that digs like that, that's got a neutral or maybe even a negative tilt to it, you always have to watch out for any mode of severe weather, including tornadoes. So we'll watch this roll on, and this may become a coastal storm, but I don't think there would be enough cold air behind it to really be of great significance as of right now. Again, given how far out we are, a lot of this can be blown wide open. So we'll get to about 270 hours out. This is the 8th of January. It's a little over a week and a half out from now. And we'll see our next storm system looking like it's moving in, but doesn't look impressive at first. Mainly has a positive tilt, and doesn't really look like it's going to do a whole lot here. Could be a potential severe threat on the 10th. Not the most organized system, but there is an interesting look where there could be a warm sector right around the Carolinas, ? But I'm not really sold on it right now. We'll look at our next piece of energy here, and there will be a new warm sector that develops around the southeast, almost like a ridge starts to set itself into place. So this could be a very active start for the southeast to start 2023. Then we see a big system start to roll in on the 12th here. Of course, this is towards the end of the model run, so we'll have to see how this ends up evolving. But it looks like there's also a decent amount of cold air associated with this one in comparison to some of the others. So there could be some dynamics with this as well. But basically, from what I can gather from both the GFS and the Euro, is the fact that it looks like both models are picking up on multiple storm systems, some which have the potential for flooding, severe weather, maybe even all severe weather hazard types. We'll have to keep an eye on pretty much every system and just make sure that none of these end up sneaking up under our noses and causing some real grief. Another thing to take a close look at will probably be along the lines of the low-level jet here. This will be one thing in particular that'll be indicative of damaging wind and tornado potential, especially towards the new year. I'm not really going to be looking too much further ahead on this one in comparison to the other models or the later dates, because once we start to get about 100 plus hours out, it gets a little bit more difficult to forecast these. Right now it's just difficult to keep this on 90 hours out. Okay, there we go. See what I'm saying? Good grief. This does not want to work with me at all. Okay. So here we are. This is on the evening of the 30th. Not a super robust low-level jet, but this does pick up overnight, though. This is heading towards the 31st on the morning of New Year's Eve. We do have a little bit of a stronger area of a low-level jet popping up here where we could see potentially... This thing does not want to work with me, does it? But we're still seeing areas where we're getting up to about 45 to 50 knot jet here. Then we'll roll this into the afternoon, evening hours here, and there is some potential here with this low-level jet. We're starting to see an area where we're getting up to about 55 to 60 knots at the low levels, and as we move this forward, eventually that starts to fall off as we get into the evening of New Year's Eve, and eventually shifting into the new year. And then we'll watch this next system here just because, why not? Because I'm already close enough. And then we see an increased low-level jet around the 3rd. The 3rd is the date that I was a little bit more concerned about than the actual holiday itself. And we'll just have to see how things go. But there's a first look at those two dates. And now we just have to change over to the GFS. The GFS is a little bit more aggressive with this in regards to the latter half of this run, especially as we start to get into the New Year's Eve time frame. But it's also looking like it's a little bit further back and a little further north. So the GFS is actually looking a little bit docile as we move further to the east. I think there could be a greater severe threat in the days before New Year's Eve back towards the plains. But I don't see the dynamics coming together in the same abundance as I saw in the Euro for that. So there's a little bit of question to be had there. That's why we're not really looking at anything from the Storm Prediction Center, because the predictability is too low. There's no high confidence in anything happening on any particular day at this time. But we roll this forward to about the 2nd or 3rd. That's when things get more interesting. We already can see that this low-level jet really starts to deepen as we head into the afternoon of the 2nd. And this is over towards the Ozarks. We'll have to watch this closely as well. And then as we go towards the 3rd, look at what ends up happening with this low-level jet. It really starts to get itself amped up here as we start to get into the morning of the 3rd. But again, this looks like it trends a little bit further up to the north in comparison to the Euro. So we'll have to see how that ends up looking in the long run here. And then after that, we're not really going to look too much further into this because, of course, we're getting into no man's land, and it's really hard to kind of hone in on any features once we get about 200 plus hours out. We'll go ahead and also take a look at the precip rate on both the models really quick. Just kind of get an idea of what could be ahead for us here. So we'll jump ahead almost all the way up to the 31st here. This is the afternoon of the 30th here. Here's our showers and thunderstorms starting to pop up here in the southeast. And as of right now, you can't really see anything ironclad in regards to severe weather. You can see that low pressure develops around the Gulf and starts to push its way off to the north and east, making its way into the Tennessee Valley, and just kind of going on about its way without causing too much problems from the looks of it. There could be isolated severe weather possible with this. There's a couple areas here where it looks like we could see a couple of line segments of stronger storms, but I think with this system here, the main threat's going to be heavy rain and flooding. This next system, it looks a little bit more menacing. I think this will have a much more prevalent severe weather threat. You can kind of see a little bit more of more discrete storms in nature here already, just looking at this model run here as we start heading to the evening of the 3rd. This is mainly going to be centered around the Ozarks and the Mississippi River Valley. But as we watch this go further and further off to the east, this does transition into a heavy rain threat. But severe weather can't be ruled out on this day either as we head into the morning of the 3rd. And then there's another system that pops in right behind this, which lends itself towards an increasing flood threat as we have multiple systems going over the same area within a short period of time. And then interestingly enough, this does have that look like it could potentially be a little bit of a nor'easter, but most of the snow and wintry action will stay off the coast here, and then we end up going from there. Now, if we compare that to the GFS, we're going to have a different look here. A lot more activity is going to be further to the north, thanks to what we saw on the vorticity and based off the low-level jet imagery. So we move this forward. It's a little bit weaker of a low from the GFS here, which is interesting. This mainly looks like a line of thunderstorms, maybe even a bow echo. But for the most part here, we're just mainly looking at heavy rain, but not quite as concentrated as what the Euro is giving on what the image that the Euro is giving us. Our next system is a little bit more robust, and we'll watch this mainly become more of a linear type event as well. The dynamics aren't quite the same with this as they are with the Euro, where more discrete mode of storms could be possible. You can clearly see the difference here. It looks a lot more linear. And then we see another smaller scale system come through. We see multiple of these come through. And then once we get to about 270 hours out, we're looking relatively quiet. Smaller systems come through again, and then the next big storm looks like it doesn't kick in until about the 11th. And at this point, it's kind of hard to say what's going on with that. We can mainly see that there's a threat of heavy rain, maybe even the line of storms, but nothing really in the mode of severe weather right now that can be really picked up on, not to mention we're at the end of the model run, 16 days out. Good luck trying to hone in on that this early on. So that's what we're dealing with right now in regards to the overall weather outlook. Since we can start to compare the models on some things, we're mainly focused on New Year's Eve for a potential for severe weather, although there is not a super high potential. But this can and most likely will affect a lot of people if you have plans going out on New Year's Eve, which a lot of you probably do. So if you're in the southeast particularly, just make sure you have those umbrellas on hand. Everywhere else around the country as of right now, it doesn't look too bad for you guys. Nothing too far out of the ordinary. But that's the end of this video here. If you guys enjoyed anything I did here, definitely drop me a like. Let me know what you have planned for the new year. Wouldn't mind knowing. And hopefully you haven't had too much work to do since the last storm system and cold front came through. And also, I've noticed still that a lot of you that have been watching my videos are not subscribed. Please do so. Be nice to get up to close to 200. I mean, I definitely surpassed what I thought we would be getting on this channel before the end of the year. So either way, whether we get there or not, appreciate it. But I figured since y'all are here, might as well ask. But definitely subscribe, and if you think anyone would be interested in these forecasts, of course, always share the videos. I'm always here. That isn't going to be changing anytime soon. And with that being said, that's the end of this video, though. I'll see you in the next one. You guys have a good night. This has been Ty, your Metalhead Weatherman. Take care.